Welcome back to Authentic as Fuck with Red&J. We're back for episode 3. So when we first posted that we were going to be doing this, we asked for some feedback from you guys to see if there's any subjects you wanted us to speak on specifically. And we did have someone comment that they would like to hear us speak about men and vulnerability specifically. So we did want to touch on that. We did touch on it briefly last episode, but a good portion of it got cut off because of our video skills. So we did want to jump into that today. Specifically when it comes to communication, men being able to feel vulnerable, to express their emotions and their feelings, and kind of how it may be difficult for them in today's society. And that will probably get us going on a few other things, but that's kind of the main thing that we're here to talk about today. So
yeah. So I feel like there's a disconnect between men and their boys and men and their women for different reasons. Personally, I feel like men grow up for the most part, especially our generation of men, and they're told to like man up, suck it up, don't cry, wipe your tears. You know what I mean? They feel like they never had a place to feel safe to be sensitive and vulnerable.
Agree.
Which provides a shell almost. And then, getting older and getting into relationships, there's a disconnect sometimes because you have women who, for the most part, not all women, but for the most part, we are, I know myself, overly expressive, overly want to talk about things. That's how I deal. And it can cause problems if a man doesn't know how to express himself, because then you just think, oh, he doesn't care. Oh, he doesn't want to talk about this. And there's conflict. So
big time. And I feel like, and you said like in our generation specifically, like I feel like it's more prevalent in our generation and older generations for sure.
Right.
But even like younger generations, I feel like there's a lot of I don't know, like you have to be hard, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. There's
it's
the
like
term, don't be
the
soft.
man up. Yeah,
Right,
don't be
right.
soft, man up. No one cares. Like, and like there's like the gym culture, which is like no one cares, work harder. Like what, that kind of deal, which is totally different. That's like coming from a motivational perspective. But I think when it comes to men and being vulnerable with their emotions and how they're actually feeling, or like going through difficult life situations and like not feeling like they can cry or have time to like really kind of process something emotional, whether that be like a death or just like hard life things, like you lose your job and just man up and go get another job, who cares what it is, like whatever, right? And I think that's even today's day and age, and because of social media, I feel like anytime there is an instance where like celebrities have these moments of vulnerability, like Will Smith is a prime example, everyone tears him down like he's some cis or like a pussy, or you know what I mean? And I think that deters a lot of men from feeling like it's safe to open up.
I think Will Smith's was a breaking point, right? I feel like, and I see that I have 2 boys, and I always try to tell them, like, be emotional, show your emotions, let it out, because keeping it in, which I know my oldest, it's hard for him to express emotion, but keeping it in, you're going to get to a point of like Will Smith where you're just going to snap.
Yeah.
Right. Because it just gets too much, whatever that breaking point is. And that, I think most men probably can agree or understand that that's where it's coming from.
Oh yeah, big time. Like it just builds up so much to like, and we've all probably had those moments where, you know, we keep pushing things under the rug. Like, I know I've had those moments for sure. You know, you can only do that for so long before you snap. And I feel like women, and I don't want to say this in the wrong way or have it taken the wrong way, but I feel like we have a big role to play um, for making men feel either like they can't open up, and I also feel like we have a big responsibility in helping them now feel comfortable to open up.
Yeah, they have to feel like they're in a safe environment, that they can trust another person, because it takes, I think, a lot for a man to open up. And the idea of doing that and then having a woman throwing it back in their face at a later date, I hear this a lot. That, and I'm sure we've all maybe been guilty of that at times because we feel like validated on our points, but that's a huge thing, I think, for men, is that, man, like, I finally opened up, I finally let her in for her to understand this, and now she's throwing it in my face, so why do I even bother?
Yeah.
I think that's a huge thing.
Or, and like the throwing it back in their face, I totally get that. Because like, why would you want to after that? Right? Like, you feel like completely invalidated.
Right.
Like, your thoughts, emotions, feelings don't matter. And it's all about her or him or whoever's throwing whatever back in your face. I don't know. Like, it's got to be hard. And like, I know even for me to really open up emotionally to someone, I have to trust them a lot. Like, you know everything about me. There's very few people who do. Like you, Cheryl, that's pretty much it, right? And going through what I've gone through in my life, and just my experiences, like trying to open up and be emotional and it being kind of swept to the side. Like, I kind of feel like my emotions didn't really matter. Like, there was many times where I would say something and be like, oh, like,
You didn't feel
you're
validated?
overreacting, or like, okay, yeah, and then just move on to the next thing. Where I feel like when you tell someone something that is really like close to you, not that you want them to like solve your problem necessarily, but just like, you just need to feel validated,
Right.
or like not interrupted, like in telling a story, or like comparative. Like, I tell you, oh, you know, this person did this to me. Oh yeah, well, this person did this to me. Like, one uppers, right?
Yes.
Like, no, I'm not telling you so that you can tell me the time that it happened to you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm telling you so that you can say like, oh, like, you know, you just want to be heard. Sometimes you just need to get it out.
And I will say another thing that I've learned, because I'm like, I just want to like take it in and be like, how can I help solve it? How can I help? But what I've learned with my relationship, and we communicate really well, is sometimes he just wants me to shut the fuck up and listen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He just wants to be able to speak what he wants to speak on. And yes, I mean, after his points are valid or whatever, like, yeah, support him or whatever, but sometimes they just need to get out what they need to get out, and they need the person that they feel most secure with to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I have to be like, okay, I don't need to solve anything. He just wants me to hear it and take it in.
Yeah.
And support him.
Yeah. But I think a lot of this issue, specifically men being vulnerable with their partners or other people in their lives, it all comes back to communication.
Yes.
And I feel like men and women, men and men, women and women, everyone in general has a lot of issues surrounding communication.
Right.
And many relationships break down because of it. Friendships end. Families are disrupted because of a lack of good communication. And I think it's so underrated, but probably besides trust, the most important thing in all relationships.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing when you can have communication. It doesn't mean when you communicate with your partner that it's always going to be that you have to agree on a topic. But what a great thing it is to have his perspective, your perspective, and at least reflect on it, even if you don't agree at the end of it, but at least have the insight of like, oh, I maybe didn't think about how he perceives this, and I can kind of accept that, but I also see this as this. But at least you both know where you're coming from, you kind of understand it more, and the communication's there to be able to get past something or whatever it is. I think it's so important.
Yeah.
So I don't know about other women, but for me, I think it's sexy as fuck for a man to be emotionally vulnerable. And there's just something about it that just to communicate, to see emotion in the man, to know that he's expressing and we're on the same page of where we're heading or what we're doing. It's so like, man, if you can do that, and if you have a woman that, you know, oh, man up, whatever, then maybe it's not. That's a different situation.
That's a different situation.
That's a her problem. That, but like, it's hot.
Yeah,
It's hot.
and I think a lot of that being able to be that way comes from actually doing the work on yourself, sitting in your feelings, knowing who you are as a person, and being comfortable enough with your person to be able to bring it out. And I think another point on that, why is this song seem so loud? I'm gonna just turn it down a little bit. The weekend's getting all crazy out here.
Very spacey.
We're in space mode. Where's I going? Oh, okay. So another thing too, I feel like if a man is able to express how he's feeling, why he's feeling a certain way, or maybe not even the why of it, because maybe he doesn't know why he's feeling a way, but just to say, hey, I'm feeling, a little bit down today. I don't really know why. It's nothing you've done, but that might be why I'm a little bit quiet. Where, hello, okay, now I know. Instead of me going, fuck, he's acting weird. Like, what's wrong? Like, did I do something?
You're not in your head. You know where you stand. You know, okay, this.
And
I've
has
learned
nothing
that.
to
Okay,
do
I just
with
need to
you.
back off a bit for a while because they just need to have their space, and it's great. But if they never speak that, you're thinking like, what's going on?
You
Do you
never
not like me?
know.
Are we like are we having a problem here? Like,
Or when you ask and they're like, no, I'm fine. No, you're fucking clearly not fine. Like, you're clearly not fine. I can tell.
yeah,
Where you and I are both the kind of people who, whatever the answer is, we'll accept it and we'll move from there. So like, you're my man, and I'm like, hey babe, like what's wrong? Is everything okay? And you tell me like, I'm fucked up. Like, I just am having a bad day for whatever reason, has nothing to do with you. Okay, that's cool. Is there anything I can do? Yes, no, maybe. Whatever the answer is, okay, I'll support you in that. You just need some time alone? Cool. You got it. Go. Do your thing.
exactly.
But if you don't tell me, I'm a bit of an overthinker and I'm going to overthink the shit out of that.
Yeah.
And be like, fuck it, is something wrong? He's mad at me. Something's going on. Like, why isn't he telling me? But like, no, like, I think, and that's the thing. I think when a man has had a bad experience in the past, it makes them very hesitant to go to that place again.
Yeah.
So
that's what I was gonna say. Our own personal traumas, and then having to bring them to two people, and our traumas might be different. It can be a disconnect.
Yeah.
But again, stemming from communication, if you are, the way I always look at it is, why wouldn't you share exactly how you feel, good or bad, or if someone sees it or not? That is how you feel. And if you don't express it, it's going to eat you up, and it's not going to help your relationship. You know what I mean? Going anywhere. If you're keeping that in, he feels that way. It's not healthy.
No. But like, how many times have we had the conversation that good relationships have difficult conversations.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of hard, emotional, difficult conversations in relationships that are good.
And this doesn't mean
And
like, yeah,
that's why they are good.
exactly.
Because you get that shit out of the way and you feel safe to express yourself.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, and the bottom line is, if you don't feel comfortable telling your person exactly what you're thinking, exactly how you're feeling, what you want, what you desire, things that you want to try, whatever, whether that be in life, in bed, wherever, anything, you should be able to tell your person literally anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because if not, and you're wearing these masks or you're hiding parts of yourself, it's gonna build resentment over time.
Right. And when you have these difficult conversations, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. You could be right fucking mad, at like, I can't believe he's saying this or she's doing this, but it's getting out there and it's open, and it will bring resolve in the long run, because you are able to go. Me and my man have had some difficult conversations where we've had to be totally raw and transparent about things, and it hurts, and sometimes people don't want to have to face situations, but we've always been able to do that and get through, and that means the most to me.
Yeah.
Out of anything, it's
Yeah.
worth holding on to people when you see that you can get through it and you have a path. Whereas, if people have a block up and you feel like you're not able to, that eats at you. Like that would,
Oh, for sure.
that eats at someone, and it just ends up in a negative situation for your relationship.
Yeah.
But as we know too with men, like the number one suicide percentages are in men, because again, I feel like whether it's a relationship or on their own or whatever, they just do not share half the burden, and I feel like they have a lot of pressure in society too, to feel like they have to provide the most, and whether a woman puts that on them or not, they still have that. Like it's a real thing for them. So I don't know how you would suggest that a man that has trouble being vulnerable, how that would ever get better. I think it would take a lot of work, sometimes maybe some therapy, the right partner, a soft, open, loving partner is going to make that a lot easier.
Yeah. And like, I don't know, this is kind of my question to the men. Like, do you have people in your life that you feel like you can talk to? Like, do you have, other male friends that you talk to about this stuff? Like, do you talk to your parents? Do you talk, like, who do you talk to about stuff?
Yeah.
I feel like there's this stigma as well with therapy and talking to a therapist. And I think honestly, like, I've done therapy, like solo, I've done couples therapy. And I found it, whether or not it had the outcome that was planned, I think I benefited so much from it. And like, I did couples therapy for 18 months or more. And while the goal was never achieved, I learned a lot about communicating properly and expressing myself in a way that allowed my partner to hear me without taking offense to what I was saying.
Right.
Because I think that's really important, like, to be able to express yourself and say, like, this hurt, something, like, especially like something that happened between you, this hurt me because of XYZ. And for that person not to take it like in a defensive way, and be like, oh, well, I did that because, no, just hear me. This is how what happened made me feel, whether that was the intention or not. Because typically what's intended and what is taken from it are not the same. Like, I don't think most people go out with the intention of hurting the other person. But things happen. We're all human. This is life. There's a lot of fucked up shit in this world. People make mistakes. Good relationships are built on hard communication, a lot of forgiveness, because we're human and people make mistakes. And I think being able to communicate properly is like one of the keys to making any relationship, romantic or not, work well.
And we kind of touched really briefly on like the men, like with their men, like their bros or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be those certain people. You're going to have those certain guy friends that you know that you can speak on. But even then, I don't think you fully ever can be like super, super, super vulnerable. I feel like men might always feel like, oh, I got to be like tough about this, at least, you know, like, oh, this fucking pisses me off and blah, blah, blah. But you know what I mean? It's hard to be that vulnerable with your male friends.
Yeah. I can see
So
that.
I can see why that's another aspect of them feeling like they can't get things off their chest or whatever, because it's just that whole outlook they have.
Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's
it is
hard.
Definitely hard.
But it hurts me. It hurts me, and I feel for you guys, and that's why I'm always like, honestly, like anybody who wants to talk, I'm a safe place to talk. Nikki is a safe place to talk. I want to say we're probably the two most non-judgmental people that I know. We're just very accepting, and we've been through a lot in our lives, and we understand that like
I'm
crazy.
a little bit rougher than you.
She gives it to you a little harder than
I do, but I also like I'm not saying like not as forgiving, but I'm just very like I believe like if you cannot learn, like we all make mistakes. We all been there. We all are not perfect. But if you can't learn from them, I have a problem with that.
I do
you know
too.
What I mean? And I can't just because then it just doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah. So
no, I fully agree with that.
Yeah.
Like I feel like there's a point where you can't apologize for mistakes that you continuously make.
Right.
Because while it may have been a mistake the first or even second time, if it keeps happening, it's not a mistake. It's not an accident. It's a behavior.
Yeah.
And if you're not changing it, you're choosing it.
Right.
So at that point, you should probably stop complaining about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, like, don't ask me for help if you don't want to help yourself.
Right.
That's kind of where I'm at. Mm-hmm. But I get that it's hard to make change.
Yes.
Clearly.
For sure. For sure. And everyone comes from different walks of life, areas in life. We don't know people's traumas, you know, what everyone as individuals have gone through. So you have to have grace too.
Yeah.
You have to have grace and understanding. And if you have the communication, you have the love, you deal.
Yeah.
You deal.
What was the book that you were saying?
Yeah. So for any men, you can find him on Instagram. His name is Jason Wilson. So he has a book. I got them from my man too, just because I've always been like passionate about this topic. Battle Cry. And there's another one called, oh, I forget what it is, but it's like an emotional incarceration. You can see the books on IG if you go there. But great books for men that are trying to break free from feeling like they're incarcerated from their emotions internally and not knowing how to kind of like break free from that. I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll link it.
We can link it.
Down below.
She can link it.
I'll somehow link it. I'll put a link somewhere. I'm not sure where
talk.
Yet. But yeah, so I don't know. I feel like we've been going on for a while, so we'll probably wrap it up. But I don't know. Like this topic could go on forever.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you need someone to talk to, reach out to someone that you trust. If there's no one that you have in your life that you trust like that, honestly, reach out to someone, a therapist, or there's lots of online chats that you can go to. Someone who's removed from your life that doesn't have any connection to people that you know, I feel like is always a good place to talk about things if you're having a hard time.
Yeah. And be proud of yourself for any little movements you make. Even if you feel like you're not reaching these things fast enough, as long as you're going in the right direction and trying to make change for yourself, be proud.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like anytime we're working on improving ourselves in some way, you're always winning. Like you
Yeah.
can't go wrong, no matter how small of increments it may be. Like 1% better every day, right?
Mhm.
Like a little bit every day, and you'll
Amen.
get there. But, anyways, that's it for today. If you guys have any comments or you want to chime in on anything that we spoke about today, leave a comment down below. Ideas for other topics, feel free to drop them, and we will have lots more to talk about in the weeks to come. Okay. Bye.
Cheers.